Number 10, the abandoned amusement park in Phoenix, Arizona. This amusement park first opened in 1993, and according to WilliamsLuxuryHomes.com, the park and land was owned by the Herberger family. The park offered a variety of fun activities such as bumper boats, alien laser tag, mini golf, go-karts, a driving range, batting cages, and an arcade. Many kids spent their childhoods playing games here and having fun, while their parents gathered in the food court and complained about the increased cost of school supplies. It was just a popular go-to place for families, business events, charities, and birthday parties. But after a near 30-year run, the park was eventually sold to a tech billionaire, and no, it was not Mark Cuban. Tech entrepreneur George Kurtz acquired the site for $55 million in hopes to turn it into a mixed-use campus for top innovators and technology entrepreneurs. However, it's still pretty sad to see it in this condition. In an area surrounded by wealth, prosperity, and development, this amusement park continues to sit in a state of abandonment. For a place that used to have so much life running through it, now it's only a matter of time before it's torn down. Number 9, the Fiesta Mall in Mesa, Arizona. According to the Mesa Tribune, Fiesta Mall first opened in October of 1979. Now, I never got the chance to visit the mall when it was open, but I've had the opportunity to speak with a lot of people that used to frequent the mall back in the day. Many people said it was the place to be on the weekends, others took their first dates there, went school shopping, or just went to the mall to kill time. Believe it or not, Avril Lavigne even performed there back in 2004 for a series of mall tours. That would have been cool to see. For the longest time, the Fiesta Mall was a popular place to shop, hang out with friends, get a bite to eat, and commit crime, apparently. It included some of the following stores: Best Buy, Dillard's, Dick's Sporting Goods, Sears, the Goldwater, Diamonds, and many more. But at the turn of the century, that's when the Fiesta Mall started its downfall. As other malls and shopping centers started popping up around the valley, the Fiesta Mall started to see fewer visitors, and the last store in the Fiesta Mall closed its doors in 2019. It sat abandoned for a few years until it was demolished in 2023. Number 8, the Apache Drive-In Theater. On the outskirts of Globe, Arizona, sits a treasure of the past, something that you don't see too often anymore. According to Tucson.com/business, the drive-in theater dates back to 1954, and after a fire destroyed the original wooden screen in the early 1970s, it was rebuilt at the same location in 1974. Now, the lot had enough room for about 150 cars, and included bathrooms, a snack bar, ticket booth, and featured some of the following films: Terminator 1, Rocky, and Who Am I starring Jackie Chan. Now, just like The Undertaker's reign at WrestleMania, some good things eventually come to an end. As the digital age approached, 35mm films became harder to get, and to keep up with the times, it would have cost $130,000 to convert to a digital projector, which the owners just couldn't afford. The Apache Drive-In Theater eventually closed on September 8, 2013, and all that remains there today is the screen, ticket booth, concession stand, and poles for the speaker boxes. Number 7, the abandoned mansion off of Route 66. I spotted this old ranch house a couple of years ago as I was heading out of Flagstaff. I almost missed it. The area has many other structures such as a garage, work shed, outhouse, and another smaller home. Now, upon researching this place, the only information that turned up is that a local believes that this dates back to the 1920s. Now, I would bet that the family that lived here consisted of a husband and wife with many, many children, as there's more than enough rooms here to house the Brady Bunch. It was a pretty creepy place to explore, and it definitely gave off Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes. But when it comes to the hobby of urban exploration, this was such an amazing discovery. To find a building as big as this one still standing is pretty remarkable. We may never know who lived here, what they did, or why they left their home behind. I mean, it could have been tax evasion. But share with me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Number 6, Meteor City Trading Post. Amongst the many abandoned buildings on historic Route 66, this one definitely sticks out, mainly due to the teepees, giant dream catcher, and the famous giant dome with the yellow mohawk on top. And of course, it gets its name from the giant meteor crater nearby, also referred to as Barringer Crater. Meteor City Trading Post dates back to 1938 when it first opened as a Texaco gas station. Then later on, a store was added so that way tourists could buy souvenirs, refreshments, and groceries. The original dome was built in 1979 to replace the store. However, in 1990, the original dome caught fire and had to be replaced with the dome that you see today. And after years of failed efforts to sell the business, well, just like boy bands, jean jackets, and Zubas, eventually the times moved on and the business was left behind. However, after years of being abandoned and succumbing to the elements of the desert, the property was purchased by a couple in 2016, with the intent to revive this iconic trading post. Number 5, Two Guns, Arizona. If you're into urban exploring, then put this one on your list. Two Guns features many abandoned buildings and ruins scattered throughout the area. It's well known today for the Apache Death Cave, which is a mass grave for the 42 Apaches that were killed after found hiding out in a cave back in 1878. Now, there's a whole lot more to that story, but I don't have time to cover all the details, so read up on that. But you can still make your way down into the caves to this very day. It is pretty creepy down there, and if you are claustrophobic, well, I just wouldn't go down there. Two Guns is also well known for many remnants of a zoo that started back in the 1920s. You'll see many cages that once held mountain lions, cougars, Gila monsters, birds, snakes, and undocumented immigrants. Just kidding. Yeah, that one's not going to go over well. You'll also find many stone buildings, or what's left of them. They are pretty fascinating to walk through and kind of imagine what life was like back on the old frontier. And in more modern times, you'll see a dilapidated service station covered in graffiti of all sorts. There's some pretty interesting things painted on the walls in there, and not too far from that, there's an empty pool that used to be a part of a campground. Now, the pool actually still gets some use to this day, but more so as a skate park than anything else. Now, in the spirit of time, I'm just giving you guys a brief overview of all these places, but I encourage you to read more about Two Guns, Arizona, and I'll include links to other sources in the description below. Number 4, Twin Arrows, Arizona. 10 miles west of Two Guns sits this little ghost town, and it's famous for the two large arrows sticking out of the ground. Well, at least it was. One of the arrows has recently fallen over and been removed. Now, the area was established in the 1940s and was originally named Canyon Padre Trading Post, but was later changed to Twin Arrows Trading Post, drawing inspiration from its nearby neighbor, Two Guns. Nowadays, it may look like a decrepit hellhole that no one's grandmother would even stop in at to take a piss, but back during its heyday, it had a store, diner, service station, and gift shop for any travelers looking to get their kicks on Route 66. Fun fact, there is a little snippet of Twin Arrows in the 1994 movie Forrest Gump. It is just a brief appearance, but you can easily make out the two arrows in the upper left-hand corner. Now, after construction on Interstate 40 began, people no longer had to take the old Route 66, and that's when things took a turn for the worst. Business in Twin Arrows slowly began to decline, like a certain president's cognitive health. Ownership changed hands over the years until 1995, when it finally closed and was left behind. Number 3, the abandoned mall near Casa Grande. It was hard to find a lot of well-documented information on the history of this mall, so take this information with a grain of salt. It originally opened as the Tanger Factory Outlet Mall in 1991 and featured stores such as Liz Claiborne, Van Heusen, Kitchen Collection, Old Navy, Gap, and many more. But over time, as other malls popped up across the valley, people didn't have to travel as far to do their shopping. It also didn't help that this mall was built pretty far out from residential populations. But as the years went on, one by one, each store continued to close their doors. A comment from a former Casa Grande resident also stated that they believe it went vacant around the years 2012-2013. Many people shared their stories, experiences, and memories about this mall, and it seemed to be a place near and dear to their hearts. But as we travel further into the digital age, making online shopping more convenient than ever before, you can best bet we'll see more malls across the US closing their doors. Fun fact, the FBI raided this building in 2015 due to investor fraud. Number 2, the abandoned Nickelodeon film set. Somewhere around Tucson, Arizona, lies the old filming set of the late 80s, early 90s Nickelodeon show called Hey Dude. It was a series focusing around teens and their day-to-day life as they spent their summer working on the Bar None Ranch. If you haven't seen this show, you definitely should. It's one of those classic Nickelodeon shows before Nickelodeon went to crap. The show ran for 5 seasons and wrapped up production in 1991, and they just left everything behind. Some of the recognizable structures that are still there today include the main lobby with the mailboxes and front desk, the boys' bunkhouse, which is barely standing, and of course, the water trough. If you want to see the full-length video of me exploring this place, I'll include that link down in the description below. Now, there used to be more buildings out here, but as time went on, they were either torn down or fell apart, as one would expect being exposed to the harsh conditions of the desert year after year. And finally, number 1, Metro Center Mall in Phoenix, Arizona. This once popular shopping mall first opened in 1973, which was also the same year rock and roll group Kiss was formed. Bet that makes you feel old. According to malls.fandom.com, the 1,400,000 square foot mall was built on 312 acres in an area of Phoenix that was a sparsely populated residential area and the northern edge of town at that time. It was even considered one of the largest shopping centers in the United States. After the 1980s, as the Phoenix area started to expand and newer malls like Paradise Valley and Fiesta Mall came into the picture, creating fierce competition, this sparked the beginning of the end for the Metro Center Mall. It's also important to note that crime in the area was also increasing, further accelerating its decline. And when I was there getting this footage, I saw a lot of not so friendly activity and a lot of homeless people, so if you go there, be on your toes. And then there's the plandemic, which, the pandemic. Occupancy levels dropped and the mall could no longer sustain operations. According to Fox10.com, the mall closed in June of 2020 and will eventually be demolished and replaced with the $850 million redevelopment project.